You're ready to start videoing and you need a script, but you don't know if you should script it out word for word or if you should stick to the bullet point format. My name is Rachel and I've been playing around with this exact process. And today I'm going to give you a list of the pros and cons to each of these two methods so that you can decide which one works best for you. First, let me start off by saying that following some sort of outline or script is pretty important when you create a YouTube video. If you didn't catch my last video on outlining and scripting your YouTube videos, I'll attach it here. But I'd recommend that you watch this video first, and I'll even put it in the timestamp below exactly where the card comes up so that when you're finished watching this, you can go back and take a peek at that. Also in the description, you're going to find a link to the PDF that I created in the last video that will help you outline and script your YouTube video. That aside, we're going to talk today about the two types of scripting. You've got word for word scripting and you've got bullet point scripting. They both have their benefits and their setbacks, and that's what we're going to talk about. But first, if you've ever done scripting before, tell me which your preference is. Is it bullet point or is it word for word? I'm going to talk about word for word scripting first. I'm pretty sure it goes without saying, but just in case, word for word scripting is exactly what it sounds like. You write your script word for word exactly the way that you want to say it. Pro number one is precision and accuracy. If you're writing out your script word for word, you know exactly what you want to say, exactly how you want to say it. And that leads me to this next pro, which is there's room for very little error. So because you're precise, because you're accurate in your word for word scripting, you don't have a lot of space to make many mistakes. So that's comforting. Pro number three is that it can give you a polished delivery because you know exactly what you want to say and exactly how to say it, and you don't have a lot of errors. The end result can look very polished. On to the cons. Con number one is lack of spontaneity. Because you're so scripted, word for word, you don't really have a lot of room to be spontaneous. Con number two, you run the risk of sounding robotic or mechanical. Sometimes word for word scripts leave people wanting to read the exact words at the exact time, and it seems a little less natural. And finally, con number three, it's time consuming. When you want to write out your script word for word, it takes a long time to write it and it takes a long time to edit it. So it's important that you write everything out. It's important that you go over it. It's important that you edit it so that when you're ready to record, there's not a lot of room for error. So while little room for error is a good thing, it is incredibly time consuming. But what about bullet point scripting? Also exactly like it sounds. Instead of writing word for word what you want to say, you're just going to write in bullet point format the key aspects of what you want to say in each section. Pro number one, flexibility and spontaneity. When you choose the bullet point format, you get to be flexible in what you want to say when you want to say it. So you look at your bullet point or your keyword, but what you say isn't super scripted. And that leads to pro number two, easier to adapt to change. So you can improvise a little bit more. Because you're flexible, you can use a keyword or a bullet sentence, a bullet point sentence, and you can just jump off of that. So if you're inspired in the middle of your recording to tell a story that popped in your head, this leaves you open to be able to do that. Whereas in a word for word video, often people feel apprehensive and hold back on going off on a whim. Pro number three, a more natural and authentic delivery. Now, this isn't to say that when you create a word for word script that you can't sound authentic. However, when you are recording a video and you're not reading word for word, often the speaker just speaks more naturally and seems more authentic. On to the cons. Number one, higher risk of going off topic. So although some people choose not to go word for word scripting, you do have to be very careful that you don't go off topic. You want to make sure that you stick to your main points and keep providing value to your customer or your viewer. Con number two, the potential for disorganization. Because you're not going word for word scripting, it does have the risk to lend itself to less organization. And con number three, it requires strong improvisational skills. So where improvisation was actually a pro, it can also be a con if you're not comfortable with it. So there you have it, the pros and the cons of each. For me personally, I've done both. And while I tend to script my videos out fairly word for word. I don't read them off of a teleprompter. I don't read them word for word, but it just helps my brain kind of flesh out the plan for my video. But when I go to record the videos, I look at my main topic headings. Sometimes if there's a little story I want to weave in there, or there's an example of something, I will put that in my video outline, or I'll put it in my video script. But personally, what I found for reading word for word is that I felt mechanical and robotic, and it just didn't work for me. I tend to spend a lot of time practicing my videos, practicing writing my scripts, practicing what I want to weave into my scripts. So whereas other people who could probably do the bullet point format effectively and quickly, I tend to do the word for word format in the creation of my script, but in the execution of my script, I do it bullet point format. So essentially, I use both. Does it take more time? Absolutely. But right now, especially in the stage that I'm at, that's what feels more comfortable for me. The most important thing is that you just practice what works for you. Because if you like to read word for word because it makes you feel more confident and comfortable, that is going to work for you. That's a pro for you. But for someone who doesn't feel comfortable reading word for word and just wants to be able to say what's on their mind, that's a pro for them. So what's a pro for one isn't always a pro for another. Finding what works for you is actually what you should be doing. And do both. Even if you don't think that you would enjoy one over the other, I challenge you to try them both out because you might be surprised. No matter what method you choose, though, please remember that outlining and preparing a script in some format is really important for the creation of your YouTube videos. So you do need to make sure that you're doing that. And as always, if you found anything in this video helpful or inspiring, please give it a thumbs up so that I know that I'm providing you with valuable content. Until next time, trust your own journey.